Hey guys, let's just walk out from the sun, put ourselves in the shade so that I can actually see you. Thank you. There we are. So today we are going to talk about job hopping versus climbing the ladder, if you will. So let's get into it. Now, this was a great question from a subscriber of mine who thought I should share some thoughts on this. And what's great about this is that I think I can give you a pretty good take on this, because I do have a little bit of experience with this sort of thing. Unfortunately, it's mostly bad. Well, not just bad, but let's see what you think. So, let's start by defining some things first and foremost. Well, when I think about somebody saying, because it's very subjective, okay, what is climbing the ladder, what is job hopping? Well, climbing the ladder for most people would probably be something along the lines of staying at the same company and working your way up towards in the ranks within that company. And for people who define job hopping, I would say that they most likely talk about, all right, you stay at one job for a very short amount of time and then you switch jobs, and so forth and so forth. Now, I can tell you that it used to be the case that staying in one company and having a lot of work experience was something that was very sought after. It's not that long ago, I would say even between 20 and 40 years ago, this was something like having a lot of jobs was actually a really bad thing. It was something that was frowned upon, and people asked the question, okay, can't you hold down a job? Okay, you've only been working for a year or two or something at this place. Why have you switched jobs so quickly? Because it used to be that, well, and it's kind of to a degree still is, you have the situation where companies used to have the attitude that, all right, you hire one person, you want to hire that one person for as long as possible because the hiring process costs money, etc., etc., etc. And you went for stability, you went for people who were stable and were dependable. Now, the way that I think about this is that when it comes to climbing the ladder and having this mindset that, all right, you hire somebody for the long haul because you want somebody to fulfill that requirement, there are absolutely companies and businesses where this is what you're looking for, where the stability of the person is the important thing. In other words, you need somebody you can depend on, and you need somebody who is going to stick around for a long time. Now, this is always a good thing, I suppose, to a point. Of course, there are businesses where they would like you to, move on after a certain amount of time because they have a business model that is a little bit different. That's an off-topic thing, but they do exist out there. So if you think about it from your perspective as the job taker or as the person working as a programmer in this scenario, which is going to benefit you the most? Well, it's very tricky to answer that because it very much depends on the sort of company that you are working for. I'll give you a great example. A rule of thumb would be for climbing the ladder, for example, would be if you're working at the sort of company where there is a career opportunity for you long term, where you know for a fact that it's a long-term good investment to stick with this company. If you work for, say, Google or Facebook or IBM or one of these massive super companies, it's depending on your circumstances, of course. If you have the potential to become a manager in such an organization, I mean, staying at that company is going to benefit you a lot. Because they have the size and the resources and all of that good stuff for you to have a true progression through the ranks and to really build something up there. But then the question comes, all right, is that the best thing for you? Because when it comes to career ladders and when it comes to being faithful to a company, the problem is that you have no guarantees whatsoever. And if you don't believe me, I would like you to remember that I can give you two examples here from just where I live. At my previous job, Ticketmaster, one of the world's biggest companies, massive super company, they fired roughly 40 employees who most of them had been working for over 20 years, just kind of like that, because they couldn't financially maintain that support staff, and it made economic sense to them to just fire them. 20 plus years of loyalty wasn't worth much in that scenario. So and this is something that you need to remember, guys. Your company is not your friend. Even if they like you to think that they are not your friend. They're never going to be your friend. If it stands between you and the survival of the company, you are going to get fired. And you're going to get fired hard. Well, people are nice, of course. I'm not trying to say that your manager is a douchebag and like all that stuff, because they are nice people. It's just the famous words, it's just business. And business is not about people and emotions and all that stuff. They like to think, they will tell you that this is the scenario. And to a point it is true, but when it really comes down to it, it doesn't really matter all that much. So when it comes to climbing the career ladder, if that's going to be beneficial to you, you have to know that you are the sort of person who really thrives in that environment, because it's all about value. A company will promote somebody who gives you value. I can give you a great example. At my job, I'm going to have the best talk in the world this Thursday with my manager and talk about salaries and so forth, and that's going to be an absolute horror show, because the honest answer is that I'm not worth the salary raise. I've been with the company for a few months. The company is super small. My bosses are fairly junior profiles, they are massive successes, but they do not have the sort of seniority that I would like them to have in this sort of discussion. So for someone like myself, the company is the thing that determines whether or not it's a good thing to stay and climb the ladder or not. And when it comes to job hopping, I want you to have this, I want to give you a little bit of a take on this. Because the thing is that, take the example from earlier, all these people who were fired, take the manager. That's a classical one. If you are a manager in a big company for a long time and you get fired, you may or may not find that it's very tricky for you to get another position which is as, high up on the ladder as you had. It's very tricky, because managers are something that usually, it's very tricky sometimes to get that sort of job. It's not impossible, but the thing that is valuable to remember here is that what matters after you get fired or after you switch jobs is what you can do. That's what it all comes down to, guys. It's always the case. That's the only thing that really matters. The value that you have, that you can produce for a company, is the determining factor when it comes to your, how valuable you are on the market. So when it comes to job hopping versus sticking with one company, it all comes down to which is going to make you the most valuable the most valuable thing in the marketplace, because you are a resource. And as a resource, what you should be conscious about, I'm not saying that you should live your life this way. I'm not trying to tell you that. I'm trying to tell you that what you should have in the back of your head is that you are a product. You are a resource to the company. And the value of you as an individual in the marketplace has to do with more than the years that you have spent. I have seen people who have been, in this scenario, the managers who had the hardest time finding a new job were the people who had spent 20 years in the same company managing people. They didn't evolve themselves, they didn't do any personal development, nothing like that. They were just there to do a job, and that's fine. But the problem is now that, as I said, they have lost they have lost their market value. They're not valuable anymore. Therefore, they now have to some of them had to go really low, really far down in employment options. The people who maintain their value are the people who can produce in the area where people are where companies are hiring people. So a programmer is a classic example. If you find yourself unemployable as a programmer, it's mainly due because you are yourself not interested in maintaining your own market value. It's not because there's no demand for you, it's because you are not maintaining that. So for job hopping, what I promote is that you should have a personal evaluation of your place of work. Because trust me when I say this idea that you will make more money long term by staying at one single company for a long time is absolutely false. it is completely false. It completely depends on the company itself. As in my company, I know for a fact that that's not going to be a good long-term strategy, because the demands of my managers and the demands of the company, like their standards for employment and so forth, is sky high. So the only way for you to get a promotion is to work your absolute ass off. And you're still not going to be guaranteed a promotion. This idea you used to have that, all right, just if you just work hard and stick with the company, you're faithful, you're going to get a bonus. Yes, some companies have that strategy, but some don't. So when it comes to job hopping, I'm not promoting you to switch jobs all that frequently, but what I can tell you this is that you will get a lot of market value from experience. And experience is not tied into having many jobs, but it's a very good thing if you have seen a little bit of the world. If you go to your first job and you stick there and you sit there for 20 years and you get fired, as I said earlier, that's going to be a really tough situation for you to be in, potentially. Not guaranteed, but I can only say that there is a lot of benefit to having more than one job, to having a few of them. And I can tell you right now, it's actually a lot of companies actually get a lot of comfort from knowing that you've had more than a few employments, because if you've been employed by the same company once forever, that doesn't tell you that's something that is going to communicate certain things. And the same thing goes for having many jobs. I mean, if somebody has had a stable, like at least 1 to 2 years per employment, or ideally more than that, and they've had 3 or 4 jobs, that's a good investment for a company, because that means that this person can work in multiple environments. It means that this person is someone who has, been able to, they've seen the world, etc., etc. It's experience and security, and experience and security are very precious commodities in the enterprise, in the market. So what I want you to take away from this is that it's impossible to say whether or not it's better for you to climb the ladder or not. The measurement you should have is not, should I go with this strategy or that strategy? What you have to do is to look at your own scenario and ask the question, is this company going to reward loyalty? Because if this company is going to reward loyalty, then sticking with the company is a good idea, as long as it's developing you. Because remember, as I said, you can get fired tomorrow, you have no idea. You always have to think about your own market value. It's not a bad idea to stick with a company and be faithful, but you should always remember that you have to keep your market value. If you don't maintain the market value, you are in a really risky position. And job hopping is the same thing. If you're switching jobs left and right, you might find it hard to find a new job because people are starting to think that you're flaky and so forth. So it's about finding that sweet spot. But that's what I want to leave you with. The most important thing is your market value. Because trust me, you can make a lot more money from getting the right job. Some companies pay a lot more than other companies depending on talent and so forth. And some pay less. So this idea that you have to stay at the same company to make the most amount of money, that's absolutely false. But it kind of depends on the company as well. So that's the thing I'm going to end on. Maintain your market value, and the rest is going to have to be something you kind of play by ear. That's all I can say. And yeah, maintain your market value. Have a great day.